So let's talk about a modern hoax disguised as ancient wisdom, the Essene Gospel of Peace. Good morning, my friends. It's I, John, here in the studio with a fabulous mug of John's Joe coffee. Available at johnsjoe.com and actually helps support this work that I do. And I thank you if you're a coffee drinker and you get some. What if I told you if one of the most popular so-called ancient texts about Jeshua is actually a 20th century invention tied to New Age mysticism and not ancient Essenes at all? The Essene Gospel of Peace, it's out there right now. Greg Braden's talking about it. It's coming up on channels all over YouTube. But it's a pretty convenient book if you really look at it. When you read it, there's all kinds of anachronisms in there that would not have been said by people of the time. And it's fascinating how it seriously aligns with modern spiritual buzzwords. The actual reality of it is the book is not an ancient discovery. It's a modern fabrication of the 1900s. And it's an interesting one. It's interesting to look at if you're looking at the history of spirituality, and the growth of spirituality. But it's not about the truth of Jeshua's life or the way that he lived. The concept of filling in ideologies of a modern sensibility into the time of his life is what this book is about. It was supposedly found by a guy named Edmund Bordeaux-Jacquelli. Jacquelli was an author and a discoverer of the so-called gospel. No one else has ever seen it except for Edmund Jacquelli. It has never been taken in photograph. It's never been even sketched. It was a writing by Edmund Jacquelli, who claimed that he found an ancient Aramaic manuscript in the Vatican and another in the Library of Monte Cassino in 1923. Remember that date, 1923. Also, understand that no independent scholar or library has ever verified the manuscript's existence. No one says it exists, including the Vatican. Now, a lot of people, to make this work, start to create a conspiracy theory that they were lied to and the Vatican hid this. But it's more likely that it doesn't exist because no one else has ever seen it except for Jacquelli. You have to remember that Edmund Jacquelli was part of the early Theosophical movement. His background was connected to natural healing, vegetarianism, mysticism, and was deeply influenced by Madame Blavatsky's early ideas. And she was the founder of the Theosophical Society and other esoteric movements. He was very much into this new spiritualism that was happening around the turn of the century. One of the things that early Theosophical Society was doing was trying to marry Christianity and Hinduism. They're trying to put the two together. One of the main tenets of Hinduism was vegetarianism. There was this definite influence. Now, 1923, the Theosophical movement was at its height. Literally in that time period, the Theosophical movement was bringing in all of these ideas. There's nothing before that time that says this is true. There's no other document that verifies what Jacquelli is claiming. There's no other scholar or library that claims that this even exists. But it brings in the concept of karma, reincarnation, spiritual evolution, vegetarianism, and an esoteric Jeshua or Jesus. But the concept of this, all of these concepts are really Hindu ideas that the Theosophical Society was pushing at the time. The book doesn't exist because it has never been found except for by this one man. And this one man was heavily influenced by the Theosophical movement. So he was trying to tie the idea that Jeshua had these Hindu ideas so he could literally match the Theosophical movement. The interesting thing is that this Essene Gospel of Peace conveniently validates all of this. And unlike early Christian texts that never mention any of these things, the Essene Gospel of Peace has this one idea. Now, can we back this up with another Essene writing? Sure we can. Yeah. The Gospel of the Holy 12. That's the other supposed Essene writing. Well, people are leaning into the Gospel of the Holy 12 right now, right? But when you actually do the research in the Gospel of the Holy 12 of the Holy 12 was a series of newspaper articles between 1894 and 1903, where they took sections of the New Testament and they added vegetarianism to it. Right at the time when Madame Blavatsky and the early Theosophical Society was ramping up, this series of newspaper articles come out claiming that Jesus was a vegetarian and the early disciples were vegetarians. What's really interesting about both of these texts, because these are the two main Essene writings that everyone talks about. One of them was a series of newspaper articles with no ancient text behind it. It was called The Gospel of the Holy 12 as a series of newspaper articles. There's no document that claims that it's true. And it was full of ideas that were not in any way, shape, or form in the Bible text or any Christian text. So the concept of these are two just conspiracies is statistically impossible, first of all. The only Essene writings that we have are possibly the Dead Sea Scrolls. And even that's questionable about the concept of are they truly Essene. Some people don't think they are. Most people do believe the Dead Sea Scrolls are Essene writings. So if they are the only ones that people say are the true Essene writings, they don't mention Jesus. They don't mention vegetarianisms. They were not vegetarians. They didn't have the esoteric healing ideas in them. They were books of the Torah. They were books of the Torah. There is no writing that says that they did any of these New Age ideologies or any of the Hindu ideologies in existence, except for these two that are claimed to be in existence, one of which we know absolutely was just a series of newspaper articles. The other one is only Edmund Kelly's word that it exists. No one else has ever seen it. So these rediscovered texts just happen to support these writers' modern worldview. They literally are promoting something. It's an agenda. Now, I also believe that the Bible was written with an agenda. And I think the Bible itself was written with a messianic agenda, supporting the worldview that Jesus was the Messiah. I don't agree with that, because the word Messiah means Messiah. If it comes from the word Meshiach, and Meshiach itself was a monarchical ruler who was anointed into the position. So it had nothing to do with spirituality or any of that nature. What it was, the Jewish people were looking for a king to lead them. And so the concept of a Meshiach or a Messiah or a Christ, which is what the word became, Christ, is antithetical to what Jeshua taught, because he was all about the oneness of God and the oneness within and the power within you. As I said, the scholars are pretty much in agreement that the Essenes were an ascetic Jewish apocalyptic ritual, purity focused, and they were possibly linked to the Dead Sea Scrolls. They were not vegetarians. They didn't preach sun gazing. The writings that are actually attributed to the Essene communities are legalistic and Torah-centered, not airy spiritualism. So why are we talking about it today? The Essene Gospel of Peace appeals to modern spiritual seekers because they are leaning into these ideas. The modern New Age movement, even the words New Age, come out of the Theosophical Society. Now, the Theosophical Society is claiming that these New Age ideas that coming out around the early 1900s were truth, but there is no historical evidence of any of it ever being true. There's the concept of being anti-institutional right now. It sells. Let's fight this. Let's fight that. Let's fight this. Let's go against the church. Let's go against the ideas of others. There's Eastern style mysticism with a Western Jesus. It's marketable. And people are making tons of money off of these ideas. It's funny. The idea of this New Age ideologies in the wellness spaces, it always seems that they're based on ancient conspiracies and ancient, hidden knowledge or secret things, or they're talking about, this ascension or this thing that we're trying to get to in the future and all this stuff. But none of them are in the I am. None of them are here in the present. They're focused on these things that you have to be afraid of, and they're basically selling you those ideas. They're telling you that the Essene Gospel of Peace, the Gospel of the Holy 12, is the truth, and you've been lied to, and you've been told that this is true, and you've been made to believe that Jesus ate meat. He ate lamb and fish in the Bible, and Leviticus gives you the list of the animals to eat, like I said. So the danger lies in the fact that they're selling fiction, and the reason it's dangerous is because they're literally telling people what to believe, and what they're telling them to believe is based upon fraud. It undermines genuine spiritual inquiry. It undermines the idea of being in present moment and leaning into these manufactured myths to support an agenda of vegetarianism and modern New Age concepts. And now, a quick word from our sponsor. Coffee Time with John. This channel runs off coffee, so get your coffee and tea at johnsjoe.com. Let's talk about the core message of Jeshua. Truth is found in your present moment. Think not upon tomorrow. Be here today. He never talked about the fabricated conspiracies of the past. In fact, he said, before Abraham was, I am. Abraham was the representation of the Jewish faith. He was saying, get rid of religion. Just be loving. I leave you one commandment, love one another. Jeshua taught simple presence, love, and empowerment, not obscure mystical codes or sun worship diets. Let's talk about the misinformation that these texts are putting out. The only evidence we have of the Essenes, according to most scholars, is Qumran and the Dead Sea Scrolls. There's no other evidence. There's no other evidence from that people. And these ideas are being placed around that people to give them the concept. The people will talk about Edgar Cayce predicted the Essenes. All Edgar Cayce said in his writings was that scrolls will be found near the Dead Sea. That's all he said. He didn't divinely expand upon that. People will take something as a conspiracy so that they can feel that they've been wronged. And so they can say, look, I have power because I now have this information. Your own divine power is here and now. It's in this moment. It doesn't matter what anybody said in the past. Let the past go. Get rid of all the texts. People lean into the text like they have to hold on to them like a life raft, but you don't have to. You can let the text go, and you can be here and now and love one another. There's all kinds of people who are channeling things and telling you the truth you're supposed to believe. And, most of it is just escapism. They're trying to find reasons why their world is tough and ways to get out of it so they can create a process to get out of it. And most of the people who are pushing those things are selling a book, or they're selling a course, or they're getting great speaking fees. And it has nothing to do with spirituality. There's a couple big names right now that I know who are pushing this idea of this horrible, horrific thing happening in the future, and you've got to buy their meditation bundles so that we can change the future. The future is not set. Think not upon tomorrow. Be here today. The future is we are creating it in the now. And his idea of telling you there's something scary ahead of you is just about selling meditation bundles. Has nothing to do with true spirituality. True spirituality doesn't focus on fear because, as the Buddha said, the secret to enlightenment is the eradication of fear. And though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I shall fear no evil. Well, if you're looking at conspiracies of the past, you're looking at things that I'm afraid I haven't gotten the information. I'm afraid I've been lied to, right? Those are not present. They're in the past. And this idea that some cataclysmic thing is going to happen in the future or some great ascension thing is going to happen in the future is not present. The reality of it is that Jeshua taught about presence. I am is not I was or I will be. It's here and now. And this concept of creating something to sell someone a product, it bothers me. It bothers me because it all it does is disempower people. It puts people in fear that they don't know something or fear that they're not going to get somewhere. When in reality, and I don't like the term Christ consciousness because it brings, first of all, it brings up the word Christ, but it's at conflict with itself. Christ, a Messiah figure that's going to save or whatever. Consciousness, you're only conscious in the present. You're not conscious in the past, and you're not conscious in the future. You're only conscious in the present. Well, a Christ figure is about the future. Consciousness is about now. And so it really comes down to this idea that all of these texts, the Essene Gospel of Peace, the Gospel of the Holy 12, are all about conspiracies of the past, and that we're supposed to awaken to these ideas now because that's the truth, when in reality, that truth is based on the truth of people who believed in the early New Age movements of the Theosophical Society. You are free. Here and now, you are free. You don't have to be afraid of the future or worried that you missed something in the past. Right here, right now, you can be the love that Jeshua spoke of. You can bring the kingdom of heaven to earth right here, right now. Just love one another. That's the way. When you look at these conspiracy theories of the past, like the Essene Gospel of Peace, or these apocalyptic visions of the future, or even the I'm not there yet kind of ascension ideas, right? They're all about eliciting fear, and that eliciting fear doesn't feel good. So here's how you discern: am I mad because the Vatican did something bad? That's fear. It's a negative emotion. It's coming from fear of some kind. Am I worried that I might not ascend to the 5D? That's fear. That feeling of fear that I've got to do these right things here to get to that thing, right? The secret to enlightenment is the eradication of fear. You have to let go of the conspiracy theories and let go of the things in front of you and be present. Be in the I am moment. Understand that not everything that supposedly comes from the ancient world is actually from the ancient world. The majority of the stuff that's coming out right now is not from the ancient world. It's from modern people interpreting things into those ancient texts about their belief, or fabricated ancient texts. There's a lot of them. There's a lot of fabricated ancient texts. Remember Da Vinci Code? It was all based on the Holy Blood, Holy Grail book, which was based on a guy who was trying to prove he was the descendant of Jesus, and they caught him and his partner creating ancient texts. So right after all of that came out, and then the Da Vinci Code came out, suddenly out of the blue, readers started talking about how when they were in France and having children and all this stuff, there's no evidence of that. Until this guy claimed he was the descendant of Jesus and started putting things out that he was. So, the full collective consciousness is having ideas put into it. As the story of Adam and Eve talks about, is eating from the tree of knowledge, getting kicked out of paradise, getting in our heads about things instead of just living our feelings. Live love. Don't worry about what anything happened in the past. Don't worry about the future. Be the outcome you want to see. Gandhi said, be the change you want to see in the world. So be this moment. Be the love in the moment. Bring the kingdom of heaven to earth. And you don't need to worry about a diet. Now, this diet of vegetarianism that the Essene Gospel of Peace promotes, it's at conflict with Jesus, the Bible Jesus. When I say Jesus, that's what I'm talking about. It's at conflict because when they asked him what diet they should follow, Jesus said, it's not what goes into your mouth that defiles you, it's what comes out. He was talking about the Word being the beginning. And the beginning is the Word. The Word was with God, and the Word was God. So in other words, you put your words, your thoughts, your intentions out, and it's reflected back to you. Has nothing to do with diet, dogma, doctrines, or ritual. Has everything to do with before Abraham was, I am. I am hungry. I am starving. I am loving you. I am. It's very simple. It comes back to what are you being? And if you set it to the highest ideal of just being love, you are living and walking the way of Jesus. And my friend Jeshua would have taken this idea of the Essene Gospel of Peace, and he would have laughed at it because it's completely antithetical to what he taught. And so don't trust these ancient texts. Don't trust these New Age gurus, even me. Everything comes from your discernment, from your space. trust your own inner compass. If you're worried about the past, not knowing something, or worried about the future because of something that's going to happen, nothing is said in the future. Don't fall for cleverly packaged spiritual conspiracy theories. If your belief needs to lie about history to feel powerful, it probably isn't power at all. You can put this to rest. The Essene Gospel of Peace is a document by Edmund Bordoja-Kelly to promote the Theosophical Society teachings. The Gospel of the Holy 12 was a series of newspaper articles that took the New Testament and added vegetarianism to match the Theosophical Society teachings. This concept that they are the ancient truth has no basis in reality or evidence. And the reality of it is Jeshua spoke of being here now. I am. Even the word amen means so be it. It means right here, right now, it's done. And so it comes back to you coming to this space of understanding that if someone's trying to sell you something, it was very interesting. I'm talking to somebody the other day. They asked me if I had a mailing list, and they were shocked that I did not have a mailing list, because that is the modern marketing way, to have your mailing list. I don't have a mailing list. I've never asked anybody to give me their email address. And the difference in that is, I'm just speaking my truth. That's all I do. I just speak my truth. I'm not focused on becoming a millionaire because of it. I am just living my truth. I know the abundance of the universe will come to me because of my truth, right? But I don't expect anyone to take my truth, and I don't try to promote an idea that isn't truthful or is based in ideas that have no basis in evidence, and is definitely not based on something that people claim is an ancient document, but they will not provide any evidence that it is. So that's my thought on this. You guys have a great day, and I'll talk to you soon. See you. Bye.